My parents came to this country fleeing tyranny in search of a better life, with the hopes that they could live free from persecution or oppression, and someday even prosper. Over the course of my life, I have had the privilege to see up close the miracle of the American dream. What it's meant for myself and my family. I believe from the bottom of my heart in that dream and the promise it has for all Americans, regardless of where they were born, who they pray to, who they love, or the color of their skin. That in our timeless quest to form a more perfect union, we've strived to make this country a city on a shining hill. Yet, the American dream, realized by my parents, is in peril on many fronts. Special interests and a broken Washington have caused gridlock of legislation needed to combat climate change. How about less stagnation and more legislation? Not a week passes by in Miami, Florida, in which a bridge or a highway is not underwater. Eugene itself has seen one of the hottest summers and coldest winters on record in the same year. The breadth of the danger we face from environmental degradation is existential. America has been for generations the leader on a global stage. As such, we must set the example for nations all over the world, passing sweeping legislation to reform our environmental policies before the damage becomes irreversible. As well, we must be willing to aid any nation, developed or otherwise, that wants to join us in this mission.
Yes.
To invest in renewables and sequester carbon from the atmosphere. And in order to pass sweeping environmental laws, we must reform fundamentally how elections in this nation take place. We cannot solve the issue of climate change without ending voter suppression and getting special interests and dark money out of our politics. That's right. On January 3rd of this year, the very first day of the 116th Congress, Speaker Pelosi introduced legislation, House Resolution 1, also known as For the People Act of 2019, which would fundamentally reform elections in this nation, ending voter suppression as we know it, and getting special interests and dark money out of our politics. Make no mistake, in order for our government to pass laws dealing with climate change, we must get these special interests financed with money from fossil fuels out of our political process and shut off the pipeline of corruption in our elections. I want to speak to all of the young people here. Most of you are young people. So. Many of you will be able to vote in the next election. And it is very important that every single one of you, without exception, do just that. But the work we hope to accomplish will not be solved in one election. Rather, by a sustained effort to elect leaders on climate issues into positions of power. When November 8th, 2016 passes you by and you've lost an election, you double down. When November 6th, 2018 passes you by and the American people in large numbers and record turnout for any midterm election since universal suffrage turn out, you double down. Let me make this clear. When November 3rd, 2020 passes you by and we've worked to put a climate leader in the Oval Office. Exactly. I love that guy. We will double down and make sure that our new leader has all the support necessary, both civil and congressional. Necessary to promote an agenda which will work aggressively to fight climate change and restore the dream I speak of. What we need is leaders who will stand up to special interests, fight for the people of this nation, and as a global leader, for people all over the planet. Climate leaders don't drop out of international agreements and cozy up to oil money autocrats in Saudi Arabia and Russia. They hold the government accountable when it is in breach of the public trust. And that's exactly what these young people are doing. Nearly 80 years ago, in the worst recession in this nation's history, we came together as a country to build an economic framework some of you might have heard of, known as the New Deal, which created a middle class unrivaled in human history. 74 years ago, we led a global coalition to defeat fascism and the crimes against humanity it perpetrated. In the face of these challenges, we managed to endure, and we're gonna make it through this one too. To realize that dream that I was fortunate enough to see my parents realize. To one day find that city on a shining hill. Thank you.